What's up, everybody? This is Football at the Bar. We're your host. I'm TA.
And this G Money.
And we're brought to you by ATB Media Network. Super excited this week. This season is sitting over here and moving and churning and getting through. And we are very close to the playoffs. We only have, 3-4 more weeks left?
Well, I think it's about 3 weeks left.
And you know, this is when the rubber meets the road. This is when crunch time is. This is when these teams have to come to play each and every single week. And we've watched some teams sitting over here and getting themselves out of the conversation. Then we have some people that are playing themselves into the conversation. So I can look forward to talking about it. But before we go there, all of you, I need you to do me a quick favor. I need you to I need you to subscribe, and I need you to download. Make sure you take care of us. Like, subscribe, download, and come see us, because we're here each and every single week dropping them dimes for you. And lastly, G Money, what are you drinking on?
Man, you know, you'd have had me in high cotton for a couple weeks in a row.
And I'm over here drinking that AKB 6, that beautiful, nice, smooth, silky cognac. So I'm absolutely loving my shit. I've been on it for quite some time now.
Yeah, I guess me too, right? Single malt.
Single malt. That single malt's a little bit different than that blended malt. It gets you a little bit more messed up too. You get to feeling yourself a little bit more.
I have to say you're probably right. You're probably right.
So speaking of feeling yourself, you know, started feeling themselves after a couple of wins and started thinking that they poop don't stink. And that's our Cowboys.
They ain't my Cowboys, but yes, they are the America's
team, without a doubt. And we've seen them come in here and had the wind at their backs, the wind, you know, at their sails, and they go in there and play a Bills team that is actually ascending and actually playing better than what they've played for the majority of the year.
Yeah.
You know, they are literally coming into their own at the very right time. So that makes that team scary. But you see the Cowboys, and once again, Cowboys don't deliver when they're playing a good to above average quality team. And in prime time, they sit over here and give us a stinker and sit over in the rain, get their doors blown off and don't get it done and get the Bills. So what were your thoughts? What were your thoughts about the Cowboys game?
Well, you know, it's like, this is what the Cowboys do every single solitary year, you know, since 96.
Since 96,
they find a way to wet the bed at the most inopportune times. And I actually was, you know, as a non-resident Cowboy lover, I was actually thinking, oh, this might be the year that where they you know, change their stripes. They might actually say, oh, we're going to pay attention and come in like rock stars on a road game, because everybody says we don't win these road games. But no, they decided to do exactly what they always do. It's interesting, though, because now it's kind of like with the whole Dak era, his whole career has been marred in the biggest game that you need to deliver or your team needs to deliver. You guys find a way to be consistent. But that consistency is, we consistently wet the bed. We consistently find a way to play our weakest in the moment to where we need to play our greatest. And the Bills were kind of like primed for them to just, you know, say, we want to be a Super Bowl contender. We need to scare the 49ers a little bit to say we coming. And they did the opposite.
They did the opposite. And what's so crazy is that, you know, Dak was running the MVP race. Like, he was the forerunner. Even above Purdy, it was like Dak, has a great game this week. He could almost lock it down.
Oh, my God.
And unfortunately, he didn't have a horrible game, but he didn't have a good game.
No.
And then when you have those middling results, what happens is you hearken back to what the previous beliefs of you. And the reality is that the Bills took a unique strategy in beating them. You know, they could have leaned on Josh Allen like they've had all season, but they chose not to do that and chose to employ the running game. I don't know if they saw something in the tape, but for whatever reason, they decided to sit over and only have Josh Allen throw the ball 15 times, but they ran the ball 25 times, and they used James Cook just to run it down their throat.
They did. I mean, between Cook, Murray scored the touchdown. here's the thing about the Dallas defense. Micah 11 from heaven. He's a pass rusher.
Yeah.
I think that what he has established thus far in his career is that he's a pass rusher first. And because he's not, let's say, light in the ass, but he's naturally a linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in their scheme, in their 4-3 scheme, he's a defensive end, and he cannot mush a whole lot of 300-pound plus guys. So then when you get in a little bit of, let's say, inclement weather, it wasn't terrible. It was actually, by comparison, probably a good day weather-wise, but he can't penetrate. He can't mush people out of the way, and he looked invisible.
Well, I have to disagree with you about that, because according to PFF, he had 11 of the 15 dropbacks. He had pressure. Now, he didn't get a sack, but the pressure rate was there.
It didn't result in anything.
Well, it resulted in some few off passes, but again, Allen didn't pass enough to really make that force come into play in terms of the game. Literally, how the offense won for the Bills is they just ran it down their throat.
You're right. And so what I would say is that, okay, you're looking at the personnel of the Dallas Cowboys. Even us little armchair analysts are watching this, and we can say that, Dallas, they put a bunch of guys light in the ass in the middle of their linebacking core, and they're mainly cover guys, and then they have an above average secondary, and they have a pass rush. But so how do you negate that? You negate that by just saying, all right, well, I'm going to use all of my big fat boys, and we're going to just ramrod you up the middle in weather and see, can you hit us and make us get out of that scheme? And they never did it.
This is the first game that what's the dude that got injured for the Cowboys early in the season with the neck injury? The white dude, Van Der Esch. Van Der Esch got hurt, and this is like the first game that we really saw a team exploit that linebacker crew that was not going to be able to be there to stop the run. And without Van Der Esch, they weren't able to sit over here and compete with them. And they're not, James Cook has not been a superstar from the running back position.
Right.
But you're talking about 25 rush attempts and 180 yards. It was so crazy when you talk about the Bills. It was so crazy. At the end of the game, I don't know if you saw the video. The coach was sitting over and doing his end of game speech and handed the game ball to Josh Allen with only 15 dropbacks and less than 200 yards in passing, instead of giving the game ball to the running back James Cook that had rushed for 25 attempts and had 180 yards.
Well,
total offense. When you look at this isn't indicative of McDermott and not having the self-awareness, kind of just like how he had the issues when he brought up 9/11 trying to motivate the team. He doesn't have the self-awareness and the connectivity with his team to sit over and figure out how to truly connect with them and also inspire them.
Well, what inspires is winning. So what I think happened, we're both giving our little slant on it, but I think that it was just like, hey, guess what, Josh Allen, you deserve the game ball because you didn't screw it up by throwing a whole bunch of interceptions.
And that's very challenging when you not doing the wrong thing is a determinant for your success.
Yes, and it always feels good to the team, generally speaking, when we give the game ball to our traditional leader, which is the quarterback position. So I get it. I get what you mean by it being somewhat disconnected, certainly from a fan perspective, because he wasn't the determining factor. It was the fact that their defense and Miller just shut them down, shut the Dallas Cowboys down, and they ran the snot out of the ball, and the Dallas couldn't stop it, and that's why they won the game. But Allen not throwing some interceptions when he's traditionally been the guy who throws interceptions, that probably played a role.
But here's what the reality is. These are players that understand the game. And when you sit over here as a coach, give the game ball to Josh Allen, to his credit, did have the awareness and said it. And this is quote unquote, that I feel like I was in a team project and we got an A and I didn't do anything, I
didn't do most of it.
I didn't participate in the team project and still got the A. That at least Josh Allen has a wherewithal so his team doesn't feel alienated. The problem is that the coach has to have that same wherewithal. But I agree with you. the Cowboys, unfortunately, just didn't show up. They're used to playing in that dome. It was uncomfortable conditions with the rain and with the wind. And at the end of the day, playoffs are played in January when weather is inclement across the United States. And if they can't get comfortable winning in that setting, especially when they can't win the division, then they're capped at how far they can go.
Yes, the fandom on Cowboys is at a fever pitch because, like I said, they haven't won since the Aikman,
since
Irvin,
Irvin,
yeah. So they haven't won since what 95, 96. So, but they are arguably one of the most popular teams in the league. And they have been for eons. So there's a fever pitch that is around them. And I actually find it very almost disheartening about Dak's career. I don't think Dak was the reason why they lost this game.
I would agree.
I think Dak did a serviceable job, but it's the level of urgency of the collective. They did not understand that we need to prove ourselves over this next couple of weeks and put ourselves in the most advantageous position to have a home game. And this was the perfect game for them to do that, and they wet the bed.
But here's the thing is they thought they did it with the Eagles. And when you think winning one game is the end all be all and not understanding it's a collective, to be great in this game, and Patrick Mahomes is proven, you can't do it for just one game. You have to do it in the terms of a collective, and they didn't.
Especially down the stretch.
Especially down the stretch. Now, here's what the reality is the Bills have sat over here and put themselves in a position.
Yeah, they mess around, and then now they're a little bit dangerous.
Well, now they're dangerous. Now they're not quite in that top 7 to make the playoffs, but they're a game away. And they don't have a hugely difficult road in these last 3-4 weeks.
I think 3 weeks left. Yeah, you're
right. They don't have a difficult road, and so it is very conceivable to see that the Bills are going to be there at the end of the year, and they're going to make that 7th or 6th position.
I wonder if they're going to make me right or wrong, because the Bills, even with their colors, they just remind me of the basketball analogy where I say they're like the Clippers. They love to clap. So, but will the Bills clap? I don't know. The fact that they won this game and they won it in convincing fashion, it gets all the dander up. It just makes you feel like, oh, they might be somebody. And it'll be very interesting to see.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that dander, because I don't even know what dander looks like, but I know dander is I know dander is going to be there.
Yeah,
but I understand exactly what you're saying. It's like, again, when we're talking about when the rubber meets the road, the rubber's going to have to meet the road, and they're
starting to meet it.
And here's what the twist is. When you ascend, when you start moving in the right direction at the right time, because it's all about momentum with this deal. Just like in basketball, we've talked about in basketball in terms of a team having that momentum to finish out a game. Well, they're having that momentum to finish out a season. The reality is that the hope is that they don't take their foot off the gas. The hope is that they don't start believing in the press that they're going to begin getting as they're going on this winning streak. And so if they can sit over here and stay composed, stay mentally locked in and focused in, that they sit over here and finish this season strongly.
Yes.
But still, once we get to the playoffs, this is when the rubber meets the road. And the reality is, because they're going to have such a low playoff seeding if they do get in, that they're going to have to play these games away.
Yes, you're right. But you know what? The bar has been lowered in terms of the overall competition. So, if you look at...
Why do you say that?
Well, because when I look at the overall AFC platform, the overall AFC threats, what you're really saying is Kansas City looked vulnerable. Then you have to say, okay, Miami would be arguably one of the more favored teams, but both of those individual teams are beatable under the right circumstance, because we can honestly say, as a Buffalo Bill, that we have enough talent to legitimately compete.
At home?
Well, at home or on the road. So then the only outstanding outliers is that the real threat is the Ravens. Can we beat them? And will we even get into the game and the dance to beat them? But if I look at who my first or second matchup might be, you have to say it's probably going to be anywhere between Kansas City or Dolphins. And so if it's one of those, and the Dolphins happen to be in their division, so they have a little bit of let's say knowledge about that team, can we do it?
Well, it'd actually be the Ravens, because if they do sneak in, I think it's going to be the 7th seed.
Oh, so you're saying so so then it would be, to your point, then they would have to beat the big dog right off the bat, and if they're able to do that, then it's smooth sailing for them, emotionally anyway. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I could see the Bills making some noise. Of course, it remains to be seen. They got to get in the dance first of all. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they could do it. They could scare some people.
Well, you talked about the Chiefs, and the Chiefs is a conundrum all in itself. It's a team that obviously we always have confidence in because they have Mahomes and they have Reed as a coach. And so normally we feel confident, and Kelsey, but Kelsey hasn't been playing great. But at least they have Mahomes and they have Reed. And I agree, Kelsey traditionally, and we can believe that Kelsey's going to figure it out by the end of the season. I do believe he's distracted by his boo. You
gonna blame it on the Tyler? I mean the Swift family.
You know why you can't? Because it's not by coinkydink that he sits over here and now all of a sudden he has all these commercials. And we saw that with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield had a great rookie season, and he had all those commercials, and then he came back a second season and shit the bed.
Yeah, but his was actually based upon him actually winning the Super Bowl. So I ain't mad at him.
I don't know about that, because I don't know why the alignment lined up, but once he got with Taylor Swift, all of a sudden we saw him on every other commercial during football. And so what I do believe is that what I saw from Kelsey this past game with the flops, with the drops, is getting a little bit scary. And just overall for Mahomes, you see the frustration that's beginning to
it's really
seep in and festering. Tony is an individual that simply just can't get right. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's bobbled another pass that resulted into a turnover that had nothing to do with Mahomes, but it's going to hit him in his stats. And when you make those type of mistakes, when you're missing, when you're dropping passes as Kelsey, when you're sitting over and flopping instead of going after the ball, when you have Tony sitting over here bumbling the ball, and you can't win Super Bowls like that. And what's frustrating, what's unfortunate is I don't know if this is a team that is mentally dialed in. And so everybody talks about Bieniemy. He didn't call plays. He didn't do this. He didn't do that. The one thing that I do know is that when he went into Washington, he exacted an expectation by them.
Absolutely.
And those people, those players weren't ready for that. Mm-hmm. And they began to rebel initially. They complained about how hard he was. And now they're beginning to appreciate and respect that. But initially they didn't. And I do believe that same strictness, that same
it's devoid in
commitment to greatness. It's devoid in Kansas City, and you see the sloppy play result in not having a coach that does demand that type of greatness. So I really don't know if this is a team that can actually sit over here and make it happen.
Well, we will see. I do agree with everything, all your points, because look, Bieniemy was a part of the perfect storm. You've heard me say this week in and week out about the whole fragility of winning. But the thing about saying that, it's not cliche. Mm-hmm. The real reality is that you do need somebody who's going to be a disciplinarian. And I think that Andy Reid, because he's the CEO and he is the one who has, provided the offensive scheme for this team, but he has to really rely on his skill position, offensive coordinating, defensive coordinating guys. And that was a loss that you're starting to see because who knows if Tony, if Tony would not actually be a little bit more refined and defined,
dialed in, if Bieniemy was there,
so that where he would actually do things. It's not even that he's not a good player or not a not a production
or
level
doesn't have
player.
the talent to sit over here and provide. He's already shown that.
Yes, but it's the simplicity of catch the ball first, catch the ball, lick it into your body, bring it into your body, and then you decide on what it is that you're going to do.
And they obviously don't have an OC that sits over and comes from the booth or is down there on the field that can grab him at the face mask and say, hey, get your shit together.
Yes. So the only one that you can see that within their, let's say, receiver core that has I would say graduated to a respectable level is Rice.
Well, Rice has done well in terms of his production, but the problem is he's still fumbling the ball. He has a fumbling issue. And nobody is perfect. So again, but those things can kind of be worked out. But that's just all.
It's mechanics. It's mechanics and repetition. And the only thing, it's not like he needs to be a Hall of Famer in year 2 or 3. The thing is okay, you have that guy that is being able to say, I can consistently catch it and I can try and do and execute to a high level that takes pressure off of Kelsey. We all know Kelsey's a Hall of Famer. We all know that, Pacheco going down also added to their struggles.
Without a doubt. And he'll be back.
But Jerick McKinnon is pretty much of a reliable guy out of the backfield. And
you can always depend on him.
Edwards-Helaire has come in and has been, now that he has been usurped or reinstituted in as the starting running back, that he can do a serviceable job.
Who, Clyde?
No, Clyde Edwards-Helaire
Clyde is a stone cold minstrel.
Well, but he's done a serviceable job. So then but it still comes back down to what we just talked about, their receiving core. So whether you talk about Sonny or whether you talk about Tony, they don't have those guys executing at a high level. And maybe the fact that Bieniemy is not there to crack the whip on them and really get them into gear is the missing thing. And you see, guess what? Mahomes is getting real frustrated now. And it creates vulnerability. Will my Raiders come out here and smack that ass? I don't know.
Hey, the answer to that is no. But I feel you getting excited.
Don't hate on my parade though. We don't know yet.
I got to hate on your parade. I just have to be honest and forthcoming with you.
I know.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
Listen.
But it's always great to sit over here and dream and hope and wish. And I do believe, we're going to talk a little bit about the Raiders later.
I cannot wait to have us win and have you eat crow on all of that. Even though I can't say much now, but just wait.
Jay, when we're in our 40s, we don't have enough time for that to happen. But with that being said, I will tell you this, is that obviously the Chiefs are not a team that you want to see. And with 4 games or 3 games left,
will they be able to focus in the highest leverage moments?
Well, my point is that I believe this is a team that's always going to be dangerous. You have Mahomes that's always going to sit over here. And all it takes is, we've seen Tony do it in a big-time situation. So all it takes is for him to have a good game without a mental lapse, for him to do something special, and then that be able to propel the team to the next level.
Right.
So the reality is that they are not out of it, even though. And with Rice sitting over here doing the great things, you got to remember the only difference between this wide receiver crew and last year's wide receiver crew that they won a championship with is just Juju and Rice. And Rice, we can arguably say, is far better than Juju. So the reality is that all we need is one game without any mental lapses, and then they're going to be very tough to beat.
Yes.
So you got to still be excited about the chance that the Chiefs have in terms of going back to the Super Bowl and sitting over here and doing something special.
With that defense and with Mahomes and company.
But the defense hasn't been playing that great. They literally have to I don't know if it's retool, reconfigure, or what they have to do, redial in, but the team hasn't been playing as well as a totality, the defense. I
agree, but it's like you've said many weeks prior. It's like styles make fights, right? So they have a bend no break type of defense. So, but their defense is experienced, and they've experienced playing games at the highest level. So, I think that the defense will come and play at the highest level. Snead, Jones, they will do that. The thing is, will, and I got to give a little bit of love to Tony because when he had no pressure on him in the Super Bowl, he delivered. So then that's always the hope with them. It's like, oh, okay, well, can we get him to execute on the level that he did just last year? Can we do that? And can he do it in high leverage moments? Because he's not doing it right now, but can he? And it's still in there. So can we coach him up to do that? But I agree that it doesn't look likely right now, but they are always a threat because maybe he will or maybe they will.
For the first time, they went from the presumptive to
the question mark.
Well, I don't even want to use the word or the expression question mark. What I do want to use is dangerous because it's just about one good game by Tony or a flawless game, no mistakes by Tony, and that missing link being the difference between them boat racing somebody. So I don't want to quite go there, but I will tell you this. There's some teams out here that at the beginning of the season, probably not just us, but a collective of the NFL community felt that they were going to be doing well. And one of those teams is the Atlanta Falcons. I think we all looked at that division and expected that division, not a lot out of that division.
Yeah, they were supposed to be the sneaky guys.
They were supposed, well, I wouldn't say the sneaky. They were supposed to be the ones that were they had all the weapons. They were a little bit lacking in QB, but they supposedly had a great coach. And this was going to be the team that was going to dominate this division, this weak division, to be able to finally get into the playoffs. Because, Arthur Smith has been there for 3 years, and they've been accumulating all these unbelievable assets. They never had the quarterback, but with all these assets, and then he being an offensive minded coach, that he was going to be able to rein in the quarterback for them to sit over here and have the quarterback perform just enough, just above average, to where with all the unbelievable tools and weapons that they have,
and London
and Bijan and Aguilar. I mean, this had a lot of individuals, and then what we see is they're still underperforming. So here's where my reality is with them is that they get on my, MF.
I know, because I don't know why you fell in love with the Falcons, but yeah, I already know.
I fell in love with the Falcons because you got Pitts, which is a generational player. We have Bijan, that's a generational player. We have the wide receiver from USC.
Oh, look at your voice went up. Okay.
So this is it's a crawl all up in me when you have all that talent and then you have a coach that's being renowned. And here's where the reality is. I don't care who your daddy is. Your daddy doesn't have nothing to do when you sit on that sideline.
Look, you all in your feelings
sit over and make it happen. And when you don't sit over and make it happen, because guess what? Well, we've had Pitt sit over and underperform for his first 3-4 years of his career, all due to this coach. We have Bijan, who was a generational running back that's underperformed. If he was on any other team in the league, he would perform at a far greater level.
With any other team.
On any other team would perform greater. London.
London's had a solid year.
But he's had a solid year just because
you want him to be
underperformed that he had to throw. And that if you put London should be Evans. He should have been cut from the same cloth as Evans in terms of 10-year, 1,000-yard. But because you're with this coach, it's not happening.
Well, let me tell you, the Dirty Bird community agrees with you wholeheartedly. I don't, but I know that they feel what you're saying because they're like, what in the hell?
Well, and then you see the team sit over here and say, oh, no, this coach is coming back. I understand his daddy's a billionaire, and that's all good. And Arthur Smith, I understand that's your homeboy. His daddy, who's the founder of FedEx, I understand he's your homeboy. But at the end of the day, we have to – and this is when you start talking about that nepotism. When you have individuals that aren't graded, could you imagine another coach – that sit over and had these type of players that they drafted, talking about generational players, and that coach not doing something with them, and then getting the pass on missing the playoffs for 3 seasons, and then ownership coming out and saying, whoa, he's coming back.
Well, okay. The thing about Arthur Smith that you really also have to say, in fairness to him, is that Ritter, I think it is Ritter.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a guy, and they needed to, because of financial reasons and them spending money on all the guys that you just named.
The guys that I just named were rookies. They're on rookie contracts, so no, there's not the money that stopped them from getting a good quarterback.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but Ritter is also,
and they drafted him in a weak quarterback class.
Ritter
in the weakest quarterback class that we've seen in 20 years. This is the year we're going to go get a quarterback.
The only thing that I will just allow me to say this very softly, because I know you're in your feelings about this. The team that was actually expected to win this division was the Saints.
But they have cars. So anybody with any type of common sense and football acumen knew that the Saints were going to be able to do it. You knew the Saints were going to be able to do the deal.
Were the team that was supposed to win this division. The Falcons were kind of like that sneaky pick, but because they had a couple of wins early, that I know that they got you all excited about them. And then they have wet the bed lately, and that has added to your level of disgust. I understand that.
It's the use of those prime weapons. And all I'm saying is that we have to have the opportunity to sit over and speak frankly. And to speak frankly is when you have the weapons of a phenomenal wide receiver, a phenomenal tight end, and a phenomenal running back, there should be no excuse. And then here's where the reality is. The rumor has it around the NFL.
What's the rumor?
Arthur Blank, who's the owner of the Falcons, former CEO and founder of Home Depot, has sit over here and made it be known we're going after Fields. Now, Fields is from Atlanta, Georgia. He's from that Atlanta, Georgia area. So you bring him back home, and now you have a very phenomenal, competent, athletic quarterback to couple with these weapons.
Guess what? Guess who's going to be his coach?
Arthur Smith.
But
this is when we have to be able. Now we can take all excuses away from Arthur Smith, and the reality is he has to produce. And if he doesn't produce, I don't care who his daddy is.
Oh, see, now look, we going into the family lineage. I would just say that Arthur Smith would just say, "Hey, man, I could do it." And you know what? But Ritter does not like your commentary now.
But Ritter is a stone cold mystery, and I think the coach knows that. I think the owner knows that.
Maybe
he's
a backup. Maybe he's a backup.
This ain't for him, without a doubt. It's just simply not for him.
This was a very winnable division for the Falcons.
Winnable? This is the worst division in all of football. If you don't win it, shame on you. And guess what? Everybody expected them to, but when you lose...
No, everybody expected the Saints, bro.
No.
Except the Dirty Birds.
The very smart... The very smartest people felt... And here's what. And it's not because... A lot of people felt that because Derek Carr was a missing link for the Saints. But when you look at all the talent that's been amassed in Atlanta, the very most shrewdest prognosticators felt that Atlanta was going to win. And Atlanta just lost to the very worst team in the entire league. Now, honestly, of course, the weather was absolutely egregious.
Yeah.
But there's no way
the Carolina
Panthers
that hurts
is unforgivable. It's unforgivable when you're in the heat. Like that was the win that you check off and say, okay, we have that as we get to this
even
point.
If it's an ugly game.
Even if it's an ugly game, like it was at this point of the season. And to sit over here and lose that game when they didn't have to lose that game, when they could have sit over here and maximize what you could have gotten from Bijan and Algier. You could run Bijan and Algier until you broke these
I think
people.
Bijan got hurt.
I don't know.
I think he got hurt.
But you got Algier. And so the whole point is they should never even drafted Bijan if they weren't going to feature him. And now they finally started featuring him. He got hurt. you still have Algier there. There's no reason for them to lose that game.
I know.
And guess what? They're still not passing the Pitts. They want to pass to Jonnu Smith because Jonnu Smith was with Arthur Smith when he was OC and with the Tennessee Titans.
Ooh, if you don't tell me how you feel about Arthur Smith, you just feel like he needs to be gone tomorrow.
I don't care your daddy's a billionaire. I don't care.
Goodness me.
Hey, and I tell your mama I don't care that your daddy's a billionaire.
And I don't care if you tell your grandma. And I don't care if you tell your daddy. Your daddy.
That's where I'm at with them.
Okay.
But then we also got another team that's underperforming. And for me is, we go into these seasons looking at it in black and white and having a thought process on where these teams are going to be. And everybody and their mama thought Jacksonville was going to be something special because they have so much offensive talent. They have the coach that can sit over and do the deal. They have the QB that was number one that everybody keeps saying he's generational, but he looks as Mickey Mouse as anybody else out there. And so
my Disney prince. Don't talk about my Disney prince.
With the long
don't talk
golden
about
locks.
Listen,
but at
that golden mullet is special. Okay,
it sounds good. It sounds like he's special, but my man has to play special. And the reality is that when the rubber meets the road, they're only in the playoffs right now because they're in a boo-boo division.
Well, so
they're in a division with the Colts, with the Texans, which everybody expected them to
shrink,
to not shrink, but to remain where they were at, which was a 3 or 4 win team, and now both of those teams have 8 wins. So you have an individual that was propped up, or everybody propped him up because they thought he was going to be in a weak division, and the reality is that division isn't that weak because they have good, brand new, fresh coaches that the teams are buying in and rallying around. And this team that everybody thought you could rally around, this quarterback and this coach who has won a Super Bowl, is coming out and seeing that neither of them really have the eye of the tiger. That's what the reality is. They don't have the eye of the tiger.
All right, so I, and I feel you with a lot of that. But what I would just say in defense of Jacksonville, and I can't even believe that I'm messing around and defending Jacksonville.
Come on, defend it. Defend that tomfoolery.
The thing is they just won the week before, and they lost this game, and they shouldn't, maybe by all accounts, because it was a home game.
And it wasn't a home game. It was a Carolina home game. Had less than 100 people in the stands.
The Jacksonville did not play Carolina.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sure.
They played. What was it? The Lions?
Yeah. No, they didn't play the Lions. No. Yeah.
It doesn't. Only thing that I'm bringing up about Jacksonville is they
played a good team.
They played a good team.
They did not sit over here and make it happen.
Yes, and that's what you're really complaining about.
Yes,
that they didn't play to their capabilities and pull out the W. But it was a competitive game, and they still are in the playoff hunt.
Because they're winning the division. But here's what the reality is now: because of that loss, and because of the Colts and the Texans winning, it's only one game separating. So if they shit the bed one more time, and either the Colts or the Texans win, now we have even.
Yeah.
With 3 games left. So if they happen to lose one more, and those teams happen to win one more, then guess what? They've fallen either to the 5th spot, 6th spot, or they're completely out of the playoffs. Okay. And so my point is that this is a quote-unquote generational quarterback. We have a Super Bowl winning coach. And we don't really see this team as a real threat.
You know who they played? They played the Ravens. That's who they played. And they lost.
And they got spanked. They didn't just lose. They got spanked. They scored 1 touchdown.
Well, all I can say is when you play arguably the best team in the AFC, it's okay. You lost this. Now the pressure is on. Yeah, you're going to have to finish strong. But I believe in Disney Golden Mullet.
Well,
I believe in him.
Shame on you. Because he's going to disappoint you. And here's what it disappoints you, because at the end of the day, and let me tell you something, this is a dude that I do like. I do personally. I think he's a good dude. I want to root for him. But at the end of the day, is you got to have that grit. You got to fight. And I'm not saying he doesn't have any grit, but the grit has to trend.
It has to translate into W's, really.
Translate into W's, but more importantly, it has to sit over here and show that you refuse to allow your team to lose when they're not supposed to.
So that also speaks to what you feel generally about like the quarterback position, right? So he has a high ankle sprain. He is playing through that high ankle sprain.
Are you hurt or are you injured?
Well,
are you hurt or you injured?
At this point, he has to say, because he's played, he's hurt. But what it is then you have to look into the other guys. So ETN has to step
would
up.
Hurts have to sit over here? If Hurts was hurt, not injured, will we be able to give him that same pass? Because he's Goldilocks, I don't give that pass.
I just think at the end of the day, they played a team that is arguably supposed to be the
number one in the deal.
The Super Bowl. And they ran into a team that was formidable. But they have the winning edge over Houston because they beat them head to head.
Yes,
and that will get them in.
But here's what the deal is. We got 3 games left. If they win all 3, let me tell you something. My conversation is going to be a whole lot different.
You're going to eat a few weeks.
And guess what? Where the crow at? I can eat it up.
Okay.
But I don't have any problem with that.
Okay.
But here's what the twist is. If I'm right.
If you're right, you're going to hee-haw, and you're going to act a complete donkey.
If they boo-boo on themselves in 2 of the last 3 games, let me tell you something. I'm going to be on his bumper. And here's what the twist is. Don't come at me talking about he's generational. And he can't do generational shit.
Yeah, it will. Well, and I think to talk about the quarterback as a generational is super premature.
No. They came in, and from him coming in from high school saying he was generational. And guess what? Justin Fields was actually rated higher than him. And they gave that generational tag.
You love that. Look at you remembering the stats.
It sticks in my craw. And when I saw Justin Fields eat his ass up in the college football playoffs,
you felt a whole
and they still sat over here and degraded Justin Fields to have him drop in the deal and to sit over and give him the generational tag. But when you sit over and get that type of privilege, you have to sit over here and do it. And we're 3 years in, and we haven't seen that generational. We haven't seen that tag that they've put on other players that have stepped up to that moniker,
level,
and he is not.
Okay.
And guess what? I'm the first person to say I want him to. But you got to do
I don't believe it.
At the end of the day, I absolutely love this team. I love how they've assembled. I believe they have great talent.
I don't know if they felt that after your little rant.
Unequivocally, they don't. And you know why? Because they're not living up to their expectations. This is a team that sits over and has multiple great wide receivers. I know one of their top wide receivers, the one that just got paid, Kirk got hurt, and he's not there. But the team can't run the ball.
Good.
Ridley's good. What's the other wide receiver that came from Detroit that's been hurt a little bit of the season?
You talk. It's would not. They have Zay Jones.
Zay Jones. So Zay Jones can do the deal, even with
he
Kirk
came
out
from
there.
The Raiders, though.
Yeah. He came from the Raiders.
Yeah.
And then ETN is not doing the deal. But at the end of the day, is that this quarterback was supposed to be the Messiah, and he's not. And at the end of the day, I'm going to be, if ain't nobody else in regular media going to speak the truth, I'm going to speak the truth.
Lord knows you want to speak truth to power.
And let me tell you something. Lawrence, I've been a fan of. Trevor Lawrence, I've been a fan of, but he has not sit over here and done the deal. And here's what twist is. I want to talk to you about this. There's another coach that kind of gets a lot of heat that I am a fan of. But unfortunately, his hometown is not a fan of, even though he's brought them a Super Bowl, and it's kind of probably indicative of that fan base. But this fan base of the Pittsburgh Steelers are calling for Tomlin's head.
That is insane.
I mean, it's insane, but it's much more indicative of the fan base in the city. And I'm just going to keep it 100 with y'all. y'all are not keeping shit in perspective. When you have a coach that's going to keep y'all competitive, whether they're playing with Mitch Trubisky or not.
Yeah.
But they've lost 3 in a row. This team has fallen from 5th or 6th in the playoff ranks out the playoff ranks.
They will not make the playoffs.
I think without a doubt.
Even if they found a way, if he magically found a way to coach him up to squeak in, we all know they're going to be an early exit. So it's like, why?
I don't even think they can do that. And the reason
I don't
why
think so either
is that Mr. Trubisky and the team is unequivocally falling behind him.
Yes.
And I would say, Tomlin, you had a great run there. And to sit over and try to be with a team for 30 years is passe. Like, we don't do that anymore. Get in where you fit in. Find a better team, or a team that is looking for what you bring to the table, which is leadership, and that the ownership is willing to sit over here and pile in the talent to make sure and ensure that you succeed. And I don't think he has that in the Pittsburgh Steelers.
You know what I will say, regardless of all the media banter that is going around Tomlinson right now, he has the ear of that owner, and that owner is smart enough to realize, I better not get rid of my head coach, because my head coach has been able to take
chicken shit and turn into chicken salad.
Yeah, I know where you was going. All right, yeah, we talking chicken salad. But look, he's been able to do that, and he's been able to do that to the tune of, you have not had a losing season in over 10 years.
No, he has never had a losing season. Not in over 10 years. He's never had a losing season.
All right, then. I have to say it with all of the pronunciations. So, Tomlin, the fact that he does not have a legitimate quarterback, because even Pickett was wet in the bed. He has the offensive coordinator where he had Todd Haley, and because of Ben Roethlisberger not agreeing with Haley, and that kind of was like the beginning of the erosion of
Ben Roethlisberger. No, the erosion was Ben Roethlisberger getting old.
Yes,
cats get old.
I only couple it with the fact that one of the things that ended up being a part of that erosion was, yes, Ben was 2 steps away from retirement, and I think he retired the next year, but then they got rid of their offensive coordinator that was making
2
them.
years.
Okay, so forgive my timeline, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, they have not come up with a semblance on offense to allow for them to be efficient on offense. They do have talent. They do have good wide receivers. They do have 2 solid running backs. Their offensive line is somewhat marginal. They don't have a quarterback.
No.
And they went with the hometown guy in Pickett, and
which
he is not good enough.
Standpoint is smart, right? But
he's not good enough.
But here's the twist: is with the hopes that he became good enough.
So how does that turn into I need to get rid of the coach? That's the only thing.
Well, that's Pittsburgh. I'm just going to be completely honest. It's Pittsburgh, and so do your research if you want to understand what I mean by it's Pittsburgh. At the end of the day, it's Pittsburgh. The reason why they would sit over, because guess what?
That's an asinine.
No, but here's what the twist is: you have a coach that's won 2 Super Bowls, and they're trying to get rid of him, and he's won 1. You have a coach in Tennessee, Rabel.
Mm-hmm.
We don't hear about this team underperforming multiple years in a row, not even close to the playoffs, and then calling for his head. So we obviously understand there's a reason.
What I can say about Vrabel, which I respect about him, is that he turns more. He gets more out of less with his teams. But Tomlin, look. The thing about Tennessee is they have Henry, and they have had a average to good defense traditionally. That's been them. That's been their thing. And Vrabel He's the only one from the Belichick tree who's actually turned.
He's not from the Belichick tree. He played for Belichick. He's not from the Belichick tree. He's from coaching.
Okay.
He's not even from the Belichick tree. How many Super Bowls has he been to?
None. But again, so you just corrected me. He's not from the coaching tree, but he played for the man.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has that mantra of the, let's say, the Patriot way that is a part of him, but he's one of the guys who actually has done something. They've made it to the playoffs a couple of times. They've done
great. They had the number 1 seed and then lost in the first round. So my whole twist is that when one coach is held to one standard and another coach is held to another standard, and he's never been to Super Bowl. Tomlin's been to 2, 1-1. This man has never been
winning records
and has never had a losing record.
How about
and
that?
They call for his job. But we have another coach that has had 2 seasons that they're not going to go to the Super Bowl, and there's not one single call for his job. Let's not sit over and act like.
Well, that's why I'm not going to be prisoner of the moment, because to me, that's just the media hype in the disgust of the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they're spoiled like Laker fans. They just expect that they're always supposed to be there.
Right.
And they're not going to be there this time round. And so now they want to call for heads. But I think that if Tomlin is on the chopping block, oh my God, Mark Davis, sign him tomorrow.
No, I still think they need to go with Antonio Pierce for the Raiders. But I will tell you this.
Me too.
Is that when you want to sit over and come from a position of strength, you sit over and say, you got a problem with it? Let me go. And let me go to another team. And I will tell you this, that at some point in time, I don't believe coaches should remain with a certain team for too long, because just like we see in Seattle, they've heard all of his shit, the coach's shit, over and over and over again.
Okay, the same thing with Bill Belichick then.
With Bill Belichick, you switch it up. So send him to another team, and since y'all want something new, let me show you what something new looks like. When we talk about coaches, and so Sean McVay and what they're doing with the Rams.
Yeah, I'm glad.
And let me tell you something. I saw this team early, and I remember, like I've said before, I saw this team, and I said, this is one of the worst teams in the NFL. This is one of the absolute worst teams, and to see what Sean McVay has done. Right. Sean McVay's is kind of positioned as an offensive genius. But what I will tell you this is that this is not an offensive genius trek that they're on. This is a full-blown, unequivocal coaching trek that Sean McVay has taken this team that has nothing but third-round draft picks and less, because they've given all the other draft and brought a team together that should and was expected to completely and utterly underperform, and to sit over and have them in the playoff race, currently in the playoff deal, and that unless they shit the bed, they're going to make the playoffs. Sean McVay, and I've never been a huge fan of Sean McVay. I always felt that he was a little bit overrated. I respect Sean McVay's mind, but I didn't like what he did with their quarterbacks. But I will tell you this, Sean McVay is in a phenomenal deal with this team, and I'm super excited and fired up about what they can do going to the playoffs. So let me tell you something. Teams don't want to play them in the playoffs. They fuck around and get knocked off. In my estimation,
let's say to double down on what you're just even intimating, I think that Sean McVay, other than maybe Sean Payton, and to a stronger degree, DeMeco Ryans, I think that they are the top 3 for Coach of the Year.
Because they're taking nothing and turning it into something. Now, it's so funny. You talked about Sean Payton, and we've talked about him previously.
But I do want to talk on Sean Payton. But I want to stay on McVay for this one simple point, because look, the fact of the matter is that Sean Payton has literally the youngest team in the NFL. He has all of the newbies, and he's got a handful of veterans, and they are going, I'm going to say it now, Ram Nation, they are going to make the playoffs. Say it with your chest.
Say it with your
They're
chest.
going to make the playoffs. And guess what? That is a magical, masterful run by him.
But you know who's not getting any kudos in this? We're giving it all to Sean McVay. Who is their defensive coordinator? Raheem Morris.
Oh, okay. So Raheem Morris.
Raheem Morris was
it to him.
Was a formal. He got the head coaching job of Tampa Bay. He was the youngest coach ever. Actually, Sean McVay circumvented that and took that role, took that label from him.
Sure.
But let me tell you something. Raheem Morris is now in his late 30s. Has matured, has grown. And we've seen that defense. Now remember, he took over for Staley. And I remember the stories when Staley took the job for the Chargers. And everybody said, oh, the Rams are cool. But it's funny, Staley's gone, and Raheem Morris, we don't believe in him. And so they're going to fail because of Raheem Morris. I remember hearing all that narrative, and guess what happened?
And now look at him.
No, guess what happened? They won a Super Bowl that year. That's the year that they beat the Bengals.
Oh, well, check that out.
But they don't talk about that in traditional media.
Oh, look at you.
And so everybody
talks about keeping receipts.
I always keep receipts. And so Raheem Morris was supposed to be the downfall of the team and actually was the defensive coordinator that got the team to win a Super Bowl. And it's only because this is a coach that has experience and had the opportunity to be a head coach. And kudos to Sean McVay to recognize that, to put him ahead of his defense. But he's done a miraculous job with a defense with literally 90% of the players are third-round draft picks or less. And they found a way to sit over here and make this team competitive.
Yes.
Because the offense, McVay's done a phenomenal job.
Puka's come up,
and Williams.
Cooper finally came.
And Cooper Kupp finally come. So he's been able to make that happen. But Raheem Morris has done a tremendous job with the defense.
Okay. So now, thank you for allowing me to just get that off. And I'm glad you gave it to me.
I'm always going to give nuggets.
So now we're going to go to what I know you really want to talk about is you want to talk about what Sean Payton did, right? So since we on coaches, we got to be on coaches.
And we've given Sean Payton kudos in previous episodes.
What do you think about what it is that man did to Russell Wilson? And granted, yes, Denver has been on a streak and it's been largely because of him. But what do you think about the way that he acted on his number one QB in a loss?
Well, you know, it's funny for me is I'm always about towing the line. I can follow just as much as I can lead.
That's the point.
But the one thing I can tell you is that an individual would have talked to me like that, how he talked to Russell Wilson.
Yeah, publicly.
Because we've never seen a head coach talk to a starting
QB,
possibly Hall of Fame QB who's won a Super Bowl, like how he thinks he can talk to Russell Wilson on the sideline, or how we can talk about Russell Wilson in the media. We've never seen him talk to any other quarterback like that, but he thinks he can talk to Russell Wilson like that. And Russell Wilson needs to sit over and say, what you want to do.
I am overjoyed and glad that Russell didn't do that, but I think that
You're
Sean...
a nice guy. You're a better man than me.
No, but because it was the mature thing to do. But the thing of that...
I'm honestly not that mature.
Well, okay, especially when you got a couple of Cavassiers in
your belly.
I know. But I will say this. I actually was thinking about it, and I was like, man, you know, Sean, with everything that you've done, with the way that you turn around this team, the fact that you had a team that got 70 put on them, and you got them back, and you got everybody on the same page, and you could mess around and then lose the locker room.
He's flirting with that.
He's flirting
because
with
he thinks he's greater than that.
Well,
and that when these cats get these machismo, this perception that you think you're bigger than the team.
I will only say this: every great player and or coach has an ego, and those egos can probably be bigger than life. I think that we've seen that traditionally. and he's not different. And you know what? And he came up in a way with the Bill Parcells of the world. But guess what, bro? This is not 1989.
No, it's not the
This
80s,
is
90s.
not 1992.
And if you was dealing with
You
one of them young
can't
cats,
do that.
them young cats would have either at least challenged him.
Oh,
You dealing with a Russell Wilson that came from that old school that sits over here and respects a coach. But I can't respect somebody that it wasn't being hard on Russell. What he was doing publicly was degrading Russell.
Yes, and
he's done that in public with the reporters more often.
Yes.
And so it's out of control. Shame on Russell for not checking it and sitting over here and forbidding him to ever get at him like that again.
The only thing that somebody can discern from that, if they're just watching it, you can probably say that Russell checked out of a particular play or a subset of plays that he said to do. And that's ultimately the only thing that we can assume from the level of vitriol that he displayed, because the play itself was pedestrian.
Correct. Was pedestrian.
So,
and you know where that play came from was when they got the call on the offensive lineman sitting over there moving. So he got cursed out for what an offensive lineman did to him.
Okay.
So Sean Payton wants to act tough with the quarterback who he knows is a square, and then want to sit over and get on one of those 300-pound linemen that actually did the call.
So here's the lesson. Here's the learning lesson that I think, that I hope that whether or not Sean Payton listens to us or not, that's immaterial. I'm gonna have a little bit of decorum, and I'm gonna say it in a nicer way.
Mm-hmm.
What I would say to you is that, Sean, you're in danger of
losing your team.
You're losing everything that you just built.
Mm-hmm.
You just went on a 5 or 6 game winning streak, and you took the team from losing and giving up 70 points to gaining them back. And now, in one instance, you are in danger of losing them again.
And you think the team respects that? You think any player respects you talking to the quarterback in that fashion on television in front of everybody else?
I think it's just a learning lesson. You know what?
No. We can't get on Sean Payton talking about learning lessons. He's beyond that. He's been in this league for a long time. And this is what's most egregious, is you're sitting over and talking to a player that's been to the Super Bowl more times than you, bud.
Yeah, because he's been twice.
That's true. And guess what? I couldn't have been that person.
And he probably makes just as much, if not more, money than you.
But I couldn't have been that man.
I know, and I understand it. The only thing that at the end of the day is, I just think that Sean Payton needs to be careful. Because guess what? You coming down the stretch, you know what? You might not beat the Raiders in that last game of the season. You might not beat it. So then it's like, and then you might miss the playoffs on your last game of the season. You need to be cognizant of that.
Hey, when you're talking about karma's a MFer. Karma's an MFer. But what I do want to talk about on a far more positive note is that DeMeco Ryans. I mean,
conversely, right?
Conversely, when you talk about him pulling out a win against a substandard Titans team, you know how you won that game? It's all based off of belief. And and that's what really coaching is. That's what leadership is about getting your army, your soldiers, to believe in where you want to take them
and execute at the highest level.
Well, that's what brings execution is belief.
Yes,
execution comes with belief, and they believe in what he's selling.
Yep,
and so it's so funny. You know, DeMeco Ryans was actually the individual supposed to take that Denver role. He chose not to take that, to take the harder role in Houston because he played there and had that semblance of.
And you know what? And they had the best draft pick scenarios, and he drafted well. And look, DeMeco Ryans, if you're gonna make me say it, I think he should be the coach of the year with all of the parity, because there's a lot of arguable guys. But I think DeMeco, especially looking at the performance that they just pulled off without Stroud, because Stroud is the guy And the fact that he wasn't there, and then you were able to gut that game out.
That was a gut game.
And Dale is gone for the season.
Rollins is gone. So,
Yes.
I just wanted to give the kudos is that when you have a coach, and it just shows you what leaders of men is. We hear about all these coaches that are supposed to be offensive aficionados. We have these coaches like McDermott that's supposed to be some defensive genius.
But you still have to do what I call the clack clack. You still have to be like, all right, snap, 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 snap.
If you cannot connect with your players, if you can't on a visceral level, if you can't connect with your players, I don't care about how smart you are. We're seeing that with the Chargers and with the offensive coordinator that came from Dallas.
We need to get more out of less.
You have to sit over here and be able to connect with these people so they will sit over here and run through a brick wall for you. And if you don't do that, if you think that you're high and mighty and you're some type of genius because the media sit over here and portrays you like that to sit over and prop you up to be greater than some other coach, well, guess what? You're going to sit over here having a hard landing.
That's what's so fragile about leadership of men. Because you know what? You can lead a group and you can have a reputation for leading a group. But guess what? Every season, every year, there's a new group. So can you lead that
group? But great leaders, it don't matter who.
Right.
Let's look at another team that has a coach that most people, especially his team, have rallied around. And that's the Dolphins.
Look at them.
And we've seen this team perform well, but they are very reminiscent of the Cowboys, where they will sit over here and mollywop teams that are not great.
They have a longer misery than the Cowboys, actually.
Yeah, and they will give up the booty to teams that are good.
Yep.
And we've seen this team sit over here and play well. Let me tell you something. I wasn't expecting them to play well without Tyreek.
Neither was I.
And in the fantasy playoffs, and Tyreek is sitting out on the first round, that was absolutely brutal. But what I will say is that the beautiful thing about what the GM, which is Greer, ensembled this team is he didn't have one Tyreek. He actually has 1.5 Tyreek.
Yeah, because Waddle
is the only thing close in semblance to Tyreek in the league. And they happen to be on the same team. So Tyreek was out, and Waddle just shifted over to his role and sat over here and played an absolutely phenomenal game.
I agree, but so did A-Chain and Mostert. So
unequivocally,
Mostert mostly Mostert. But and you have to give a lot of love to that offensive line because they run blocked to a level to where you're like, oh, well, maybe we need to pay attention to the fact that they have a really good offensive line, because I don't think that anybody's paid attention to them.
I would agree
at all. But guess what? But they moved mountains and they created holes, and their 4.3 Mach 5 dudes ran through them
and got busy.
So all right then.
But I still think that has a lot to do with coaching. And then we have the HBO
Hard Knocks.
So they have Hard Knocks in the middle of the season, and the Dolphins are there. And I look at McDaniels, and I don't really perceive him as being a great leader of men. I perceive him as being an individual that can acclimate himself with men. There's a difference between acclimating yourself and being a great leader. I don't perceive him as being a great leader. I think that's the one difference that team will have in terms of getting to the next level. I do see him as being of acclimating himself to where the team loves him. But it's the difference between wisdom and I like you. The team likes him, and they're gonna run through a brick wall for him. But it's a difference between I respect him. That the wall that gets ran through between respect versus like.
Yeah,
the wall is greater, bigger, stronger, more fortified between respect versus like. And I think they like him. I even think they respect him, but I think that they don't respect him in the same way of this is a real person that I'll ride or die for. They just like him because he's a cool cat.
You know what's interesting about what you just said? If his like aspect of this ends up making the end result, meaning that we're going to go to the highest heights, you know what? Maybe his method will work. It's very difficult to say that he's not a leader of men if he hasn't led them anywhere yet. They have to go somewhere to legitimize.
And then here's what twist is: we have 3 weeks
to go somewhere.
Hold on, and a long ass highway. You're gonna have that opportunity. We don't have to, and that's what I love about the game. Is that the game will put teams
get there
in situations where they got to get there.
Yeah, that's what makes these last 3 weeks so interesting because we literally, within the course of this whole episode, we've talked about 3 or 4 different scenarios of about 3 or 4 different teams to where what are they gonna be? What are they gonna be? What you gonna do?
And we gonna figure that out.
Yeah.
But lastly, I do want to talk about is the Raiders.
Oh, bless you.
And the reason why we have to talk about the Raiders is this is a unique dichotomy. You have a team that had the unfortunate opportunity to sit over here and blank in the game. And very rarely does any NFL team blank. And then on the flip side, sit over here and crush it so much. It was almost uncanny. It was almost unforeseen. Actually, it was not almost. It was definitely unforeseen. It was definitely prolific. That
say it again.
Yeah,
say it again.
Prolific and unforeseen.
Prolific.
And so we have to talk about a little bit about that. Not just because it's your team. I know
bless you.
I know you love the Raiders, and I sent you a little message. And I sit over here and encourage you to go get as many napkins as you can to sit over and help you through this.
Oh my God! Yes. Look, I'm getting teary-eyed right now. I'm like, oh my God!
The napkins were for your tears. The napkins were for something else that you was sitting over here doing.
No, I didn't do that. But
we saw a team that sit over here, and that's why what's so exciting about Antonio Pierce. You talk about it. We've talked about this, a team that resonates with their team, a coach that resonates with their team.
Yeah.
This is a coach that sits over here and after a fucking blanking can come over here and have one of the most prolific offensive outbursts ever in the history of the NFL. I mean, that dichotomy is only indicative of the coach.
Yes.
Is it fair to say that the coach sit over and has to take a lot of responsibility for blanking in the game? Unequivocally. But is it even more we have to sit over here and respect a coach that got the team so fired up and so ready to go that they broke NFL records offensively.
Both things can be true.
Both things can be true. Both things was true. We saw it unfold itself right in front of our eyes.
Yes.
And that's what's so exciting for Raider fans. I'm obviously not a Raider fan. I know you are.
No, Lord knows you're not.
But I will tell you this. Man, they are getting me to where I'm sitting over here rooting for him, not because it's Antonio Pierce, not because, he's done a great job or a good job in terms of his time as the interim head coach, but just because he gives you the opportunity to see what is possible with a team that came from a coach that never showed any possibility.
Yes. Look, simply put, we talked and we have talked about leadership and leaders of men. And so I think what was on display on Thursday night was a team that has bought into what a coach is selling. Period. End of story. So what you really have to say is Antonio Pierce should be the head coach of the Raiders.
Right now. I think he will be.
Yeah, and the reason why I feel so convicted about that is simply put because he is dealing with the also-rans, the guys who are left over. He has not picked his offensive coordinator. He has not picked his quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He has not picked anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He is just a guy who has filled in.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that he's gotten all 53 men to buy into such a degree to where they were going to go balls to the wall for him.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we're playing against the second, maybe third string level quarterback for the Chargers.
An ass whooping is an ass whooping now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It is. An ass whooping is an ass whooping. And guess what? That defense was still supposed to be formidable. They still had
Khalil Mack and Khalil Mack, who's leading the league in sacks and had a couple sacks in that game. Yes,
Khalil Mack, and we still didn't have our left tackle. So we were playing without our center.
Mm-hmm.
We were playing without our left tackle. We were playing without our starting running back.
Mm-hmm.
And we still found a way to boo-bop smack them.
Mollywop
them.
And so
that speaks
it's
to
exciting. And the only thing is that just leads you off the ledge from jumping off. And so I'm super excited for you.
Oh, thank you for giving me that little you gave me a little anecdote. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even think we were going to talk about
I want to move you off the ledge, and I want to say that this is a team that
your little olive branch you gave to me.
Not this year. Can I get that excited about? But I will tell you this, is that because they're not going to do that great, they're still going to have a decent draft pick. And,
I'm not going to allow you to define our season. We can go 3-0. We're going to beat the Chiefs. I'm going to say it with my chest.
Yeah, you can say what you say, and you can make all those unbelievable sounds. But I will tell you that's not going to happen. And what we're going to have at the end of the day is a team that's going to have a solid draft pick that can actually pick an actual quarterback that is good.
Hopefully.
That is good in the first round. And then we can sit over here and collectively move around them.
And then I'll talk. I'll really talk about your
And then you have a coach that's going to sit over here and get everybody fired up.
Yeah.
And what's exciting is that you, like, the future can be bright.
Yeah, we're going to be somebody.
And guess what? You've lied to yourself in many seasons in early, and then been heavily disappointed. And I think that
I'm tired of you talking about my demise. Everything.
No. Because
Fix it, Jesus.
This is solely positive. What we have is that you have an opportunity next year to be excited. I don't sit over here and say that they're going to beat the Chiefs next year, because guess what? The Chiefs are going to sit over and fix their wide receiver situation. So I don't think that you necessarily have the ability to overtake them, but what you do have the ability to be is a second in the.
I don't accept your consolation prize. We are going to do it.
Well, hey, you can sit over here and lie to yourself all you want, but it's really who you want to be competing with is the Denver Broncos, and you see where the Denver Broncos are going. So really, the who you need to be going after is being able to overcome them.
How about this? The only thing that I'm going to say to you, because you clearly don't understand the AFC West.
I don't understand it. Okay.
No, you do not.
Okay.
Because we have dominated the Denver Broncos for years now. So even what I think
Sean Payton's not going to allow that to happen anymore.
But we still lost.
Did you beat them this year?
Yes, we did.
You gonna beat them again?
We beat them game 1.
Are you gonna beat them in the last game of the season?
And yes, we will.
How much money you got on that?
I got all my money.
50 push-ups?
No. I'm going to bet my whole house.
No, 50 push-ups. On the camera, 50 push-ups.
50 push-ups. And that means that you're going to have to do 50 push-ups. We're going to beat Denver. Book it.
The last game of the season.
Book it.
Hey, I need 50.
Book it.
Are you going to do 50 push-ups for
Book it.
Okay. Hey,
you heard that, America.
Hey. You know you've gotten thick.
Hey, look, I'm over here like Maki Dada. Everything you've done to me, I've done to you. Okay. I'm telling you, we're winning that game.
He's going to have to give you 50 push-ups. I promise you, there is nothing that you can do to get out of those 50 push-ups.
Do I look scared? I ain't scared.
Okay. Hey,
we're going to win the game.
Hey, what we don't want to do is we don't want to sit over here and lead this team too far. Your team won an exceptional game against an unexceptional team. I told y'all that Staley is a stone cold mystery.
Well, he got fired.
And he got fired because
he's a stone cold mystery.
No, but at the end of the day,
we know what you want.
He got fired because the Raiders beat him. G Money, this was a great show.
Yeah,
I absolutely loved it. We talked about a whole lot of shit. But more than fun is we got real deep and we got real tangible.
Yeah, it's the end of the year.
It's the end of the year, and the beautiful thing is we had semblance of a bet that either I'm going to sit over here and increase my sexy, or you're going to sit over here and try to get your sexy
and stay sexy and watch you do them push-ups. Yes.
So we're going to figure this out next week. Next time.
My dude. Hey, stay on the move.
I appreciate you.
Give me that last little change. There it is.
I appreciate you.
Episode down.
Ladies and gentlemen, please like, download, subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Like I said, what he said. Whoop whoop.
Football at the bar, baby.
The baby. Love it.